The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us again. I'm Christine Friend at Irvine Valley College. The California Career Cafe team is excited to bring you these new series of webinars focusing on career pathways. These webinars and all of the great resources on the cafe are brought to you through SB 1070 funding from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. Quickly, I'm just going to take a moment to cover some details that have to do with the webinar. You will see that in the control panel here, similar to this one on the right side of your computer monitor, you should have one of these. If you don't, then look for the small group of icons up here and you can expand it out to see the entire control panel. If you have any questions or comments during the webinar, please use this questions box area to send them to me. If it's a technical question regarding issues with the webinar, I will respond directly to you as quickly as I can. If it's a question for our presenter today, please feel free to send them throughout the webinar, and then they will be answered at the appropriate time. I just wanted to also remind everyone the webinar is being recorded, and a link to the video will be available on the Career Briefs website, and we'll provide that link at the end of the webinar. Well, without further ado, I would love to introduce Rita Jones. I'm sure all of you know the amazing work she does for us on the cafe. Welcome, Rita.
Okay, thanks, Christine. And welcome, everyone. We are so pleased to bring you today Jan McCormick of Job Lingo. Jan is a global career development facilitator and instructor and is a published career coach with 19 years of experience in job readiness, job transition, and web-based development programs. She has been nationally recognized for her work with disabled veterans and currently assists vocational schools, community colleges, and nonprofit agencies in 23 states, 85 sites, and Canada. Dr. Jan conveys a tenacious passion for career skills as an energetic and engaging trainer and motivational speaker. And I can attest to that personally. I attended a featured session that Jan did at the National Career Development Conference last summer. And I was just really taken with her kind of no-nonsense, research-based strategies that have been proven to work very effectively with student populations that are very similar to our own in the community colleges, the California community colleges. She's a very cool lady, and I'm excited that she's agreed to share with us what employers wish you knew, 7 proven techniques for job winners. So I'm going to turn it over to Jan. It's all yours.
Groovy, Rita. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you. Thank you, Christine, as well. These are amazing ladies. I have to attest that I've just really enjoyed getting to know them better, and I'm happy to be with all of you out in sunny California. Again, I'm in Central Time here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Today I'm going to talk with you, and as Bill Simons did, this is the same presentation as what was presented at NCDA. And I come to you with a program that is job readiness, but I'm going to steal from Bill the idea of job literacy, because I am coming to you from the perspective of the employer. I think that my call to action, I love when Rita said that at the end of Bill's, that we're looking at the call to action, and for me that is to be a part of the national movement for career literacy, and I'm in the business of communication and confidence with the students. So I'm going to dovetail his whole idea here with the tools, knowledge, and support, and that's where I would like to begin. So the objectives for today, the first one, I'm just going to give you a quick overview here of there we go, overview. I have been at this for, again, as she said, 19 years. This is basically, what I'm going to show you is a workbook and video program. It's hybrid. I'm reaching the both students and people ages probably 16 to 60, so I'll show you in a minute the different populations. But what I like to think that I'm doing is providing a project-based learning that really feeds the talent pipeline that employers are looking for. I love the new language we're talking about in job readiness, and that is K through J. In other words, we're catching them as soon as we can in the schools and taking them through to employment. Again, I hope to bring you that employer perspective in all my work. The strategy of the 7 techniques, I want you to just simply realize that this is targeted for the lowest common denominators in the work that I do to remove the barriers to employment. We all need a little coaching, and as I look at this and how I've gone about it is an accountability process in the sense that there is both a self-assessment, but again, bringing you the tools, the knowledge, and the support, and I like to think of that support as being those facilitators out there that are holding people accountable. I've been in the trenches so long that I like to think that what I'm doing is making sure that your students, you aren't working harder than the students are for the pieces that they need to get to work. And the last, I want you to realize that I really feel like, and the feedback that I'm getting is that there is great value to higher ed in the employers and the community with the work that I'm doing. So, glitch there. With all of these different groups, everything from the veterans, I just want you to realize that I started this in '96, working with VA, vocational rehabilitation and employment. We were 38th in the nation, and after 3 or 4 years working with the program, we were 2nd in the nation. I work with ex-offenders, drug court programs. This is in prisons. With Circles USA, we've exploded nationally, and Canada. Goodwill is also working within prisons, so there's just a cross-population there. Also, different programs you wouldn't think about, but I'm with the Central Florida Center for the Visually Impaired. I'm in youth centers. What people like about the program is that, again, as Rita said, it's kind of no nonsense. So. Starting where we are now with the employers, what I know for sure is that they want plug and play. My goal is to get them people that can hit the ground running with the least amount of training. And what we have to understand is that they want it their way. I often show this just for people to realize that career development is always job dependent, and that when you walk in there, that employer can again expect whatever they want. So again, dovetailing Bill, because I really enjoyed his presentation. If you didn't see it last month, it just brings everything together on such a national scale of what we're facing from the employer's perspective. And with this, it really even exemplifies that if you don't have a mentor or an internship to understand what's going on out there, that you're at a disadvantage. But see, people think that all they have to do is Google it. Well, yeah, you can do that. There's certainly enough advice out there, 419 million options on resumes, and it's all overwhelming. And the idea again is we're trying to help people make better choices. What I have found is in this process, and I'm up against this every time I'm trying to work with a group, because they're thinking, oh, this is what exactly, I already know that. These are the 4 most dangerous words that I deal with both in trying to help a program. Oh, we already do resumes, we already do interviewing. Well, what they're basically saying is, I already know enough. Well, what I try to do then is help pinpoint where they're coming from in this process, and simply, who do you think wins the job? Is it the person that's most talented? Is it the person that's certainly most experienced, or is it the good-looking person? Is it the one related to the boss? Well, what again, coming from the lowest common denominator with the cross populations that I work with, what I've done over the last 20 years is brought it down to the lowest common denominator being it's the one who is most convincing. And with that, I'm trying to help them understand what the employer is thinking and what to anticipate going into the job market. And what I know for sure is that every detail counts. I'm going to help you realize that the takeaway today is very simply that we all need a little coaching. Again, whether I'm working with somebody who's 16 or 60, they both have fears going into the job market and meeting those needs, and none of them know, they don't know what they don't know. So what I hope to do is kind of take you through how I work with a group, and that is to help them understand the why, and that this helps to get people engaged. It's going to be a little more difficult here since I'm just in a sense, you're not able to participate, but I'm going to give it my best shot here with, again, why do you think 1/3 of all resumes and applications are thrown out? So again, if you're thinking as a student coming into your center and you ask them this, you'd say, oh, do you think it's because they're incomplete or typos or not qualified? I got to tell you, they think that's incomplete or not qualified, but it comes down to typos, and they just don't realize that so many different things can be considered a typo, and it can be anything. How I define it is that it's anything that stops the eye. So it stops the brain from processing. So whether it's an online application or it said black ink instead of blue or whatever, it is considered a typo. Next one, nearly 80% of all hires originate through employment office, internet, or networking. And I don't think there's any doubt in your mind that they're jumping on the internet with that answer. Okay, so very few say employment office, quite honestly. And some get networking, and certainly, as we know, it is networking. But they don't know what networking is for the most part because they're identifying that as Facebook. So the next, what's the one question that disqualifies the most people in an interview? I'm going to pause there because that is a good question. So is it what skills do you have? Tell me about yourself, or what experience do you have? See, I'm pausing again. It is B, tell me about yourself. And what's the first question they always ask? So sit over here, get relaxed. So, well, we just start the interview with, tell me a little bit about yourself. Which follows, begs the question, what's the number one reason people don't get hired? Not qualified, not enough experience, or TMI. Yeah, you know, we all know, TMI. You scare me. You know, and they don't even realize what's appropriate, and that's what gets a little scary. You know, they might say, so Bill, are you dependable? Bill says, oh yes sir, I got an ex-wife, a new wife, I got her kids, my kids, I got grandkids going to be living with me, I got three trucks I got to keep running, I need this job. You know, Bill, we've found somebody more experienced for the job. See, employers cannot and will not tell you why they're hiring. So that's where, I mean, it becomes a legal issue. So what I try to help them understand is what employers are really afraid of when they're really, and again, I break it down with 2 interviews, the first one being simply a scanning interview. We're trying to find 5 good people to take to the manager. So when they're scanning that group of people, what are the employers afraid of? Again, I don't think it's any different in California than it is here, and it's a matter of you got to show up and pass the drug test, not be lazy, you can't be a jerk, you can't steal, can't be selfish, and you can't live an unhealthy lifestyle. And I find this most amusing with people because I go out there and I said, how would you know quickly in a setting whether or not somebody lives an unhealthy lifestyle, and why is that being asked, or why is that a consideration? Well, they're not realizing that it's an insurance question, and in just a few seconds, how they are putting themselves at risk is if they smell like smoke. Of course, in one presentation, I did have a guy who said, "You mean cigarettes?" Yeah. Well, so you just don't know with this population of people trying to get to work. Again, it's not been mainstream to have this kind of training. So I would ask you, how long do you think it takes for an employer? Again, I'm asking this of the people I talk. How long do you think it takes for people to decide whether or not you fit in? Um, and they think, oh well, a couple minutes, 5 minutes, got enough time. Well, the truth is your credibility is determined in less than 7 seconds. And the reality of this is actually it's 2 or 3 seconds, and that's so depressing. I try to give people a few more Mississippis there that to realize that those employers are deciding whether or not you are going to fit into their culture very quickly. And they don't realize that even to drop by and pick up an application, that people are making decisions about you, and it's about energy, it's about eye contact, it's it is, again, it comes down to people, yes, needing to make a good impression but not understanding what those pieces are. So let's say they get through that first impression. Well, then it's a matter of helping them understand the employer really is only trying to decide 3 things. And within that is how this is all structured. And these 3 questions are very simply, can you do the job? Which is usually answered by your resume or your application. Will you do the job? And that's answered by whether or not you've shown up on time for the interview, whether you're dressed appropriately, whether you've brought the right materials and filled them out correctly. But the kicker is, do I want to work with you? And in this case, I always ask which one of those questions do you think is most important, and certainly it is, do I want to work with you? And that is answered at the interview. And so then I ask often, how long do you think it takes the employer to decide whether or not they're going to hire you? So I start from the point of, well, how long is your typical interview? And, people come back and say, well, 10 minutes. It's like, okay, well, where they're coming from, and having been in school, that is probably quite typical. So I talk about a living wage and look, I try to say the more money you're going to make, the longer the interview. So let's just look at, say, 30-minute interview being typical. So in a 30-minute interview, how long does it take that employer to decide? Is it is it at the end of the interview? Is it in the middle of the interview? Or what do you think? Most of them think, so then they're cautious after I've said that the credibility is 7 seconds, and they go, oh, 7 seconds. No, well, you learned, but no, it's not quite that quick. So they realize it's probably not at the end of the interview, and the guessing continues, but the reality is a hiring decision is made in less than 5 minutes. We all go with our gut, and then scientifically what's happening is that you are supporting that hunch for the rest of the interview. So what I'm trying to help them again is to be mind readers of what the employer is looking for, because they have to crawl into their responsibility, that the employer's responsibility to find the best person. So it begs the question again, how do you prepare for every employer? And this is where I really get excited, because in my work I've brought it down to everything you need to know to win the job is in 2 places. So that's pretty exciting to be able to promise, but at the end of the day, it's very simply that in understanding the bigger picture, they have to become simply who the employer expects and wants to hire. So again, it comes back to plug and play. You need to hit the ground running, and with the least amount of training. Well, and in the original presentation, it was the whole all about the bass and no treble, and you're welcome to, that song's probably now in your head. Okay, so how do I do this in my program? Again, starting 19 years ago, it started with an assessment. In starting with the VA, there wasn't really any way to look at whether or not people were ready for employment. So I still include in the program today the option for using the job readiness assessment. It it looks at 8 different categories. I also have and this is all online. It builds in also a mock interview and a separate set of videos. But again, for the most part, it comes back to using the job readiness assessment a lot of times on the front end, as even a pre and post to see. A lot of people need to validate results, and this is a good way to get some numbers going. But what's really changed the strategy for the work that I do is now a workbook process. What happens in career centers that I found is that we have high turnover, and or you have people not necessarily trained to do the work, especially gosh, in the nonprofit world, you know, you have a lot of people with good intentions. So what the program that's out there now that I'm working with is a workbook based. So you have that adult learner ownership of this workbook. It's their workbook that's 48 pages, it's 4-color. There are 12 videos, all less than 5 minutes that go with it. There are 6 templates and 7 techniques. I'm going to show you how it's checklist driven, and there is a certificate that they can earn, which is helpful for the people looking to, and all of you as career coaches, you are the liaison with the community and the employers, so it gives you that piece to work with. I'm just going to take you through how the program that I'm using works. Inside the workbook there is a list of the videos, and then it shows how it correlates with the workbook sections. Again, the as you can see, 5, 7, 9, 11, these aren't long chapters. What I certainly have learned by now is that people don't read. I need them working. I need them assessing. I need them pulling out their strengths and learning the next piece to move on. So how I tie all that together is with the 7 techniques, as you can see. So I touch a lot of different things, but I want to make sure that they understand that if they get through these 7 techniques, they certainly will be prepared. They will be ready. And each of the workbooks, there is where they can sign in, and each site, if you will, or community college that I work with has their own login information. It's all branded, so each person can sign in, and then there are the different templates that they're working with. And again, the whole idea is that, again, as a project-based learning event, it isn't complicated. All the variables are known. These are the pieces that you need to get through. And with the resume, cover letter, and references already stylized, it's all together. And I have a couple of more pieces there that I want to show you with the interview prep form, but there on the right side you see that's where the video, this is a responsive website, so they can watch it on their phone or their iPad, or certainly on their computers. And this is just a scroll for the different videos. What I really like about the process, and this is page 48 in the workbook, but it's also 2 pages. The facilitators only have 2 pages to keep up with. And again, what you really have is an opportunity for the student or the client to stay with you on how they're moving through all of the pieces. And in the training that I've done, and what I like in the workshops, is that I always start with the handshake, and it is just incredible for me to realize how difficult it is for a lot of people, again, to have a good handshake, to make the eye contact, to articulate with proper tone and volume their name, and have a good vibe, if you will, when they're meeting other people. This just isn't taught, and we have the opportunity now to, I mean, this is the very first thing that's going to happen with all networking, and certainly with all employers, and we now have the opportunity to really say, hey, our folks do a good job at this, and that's where it starts. And I'm going to show you how different schools in a minute have tied it into how they do business, or into their daily routines. Again, there is a certificate that the trainers can award, and what we like to think is that then those are marketable to the employers and the community, because it truly does say they're ready. And again, we're talking about confidence in being able to go out there and get a job. I'm going to just run through the 7 techniques real quick. Again, I'm so excited because, again, I want to, if you'll think about that one slide of the Google and all of the different options, people get overwhelmed. Well, again, I'm going to take you through the 7 techniques that will remove the most barriers to employment for folks that you're able to get a handle on. And I look at the handshake also in the context of the 12 by 12 by 12 rule. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it just really helped as a kind of a trigger for training folks. And the 12 by 12 is simply how you look at 12 feet, 12 inches, and the first 12 words out of your mouth. Oh my God. Now, to me, it just doesn't get any more simple than that in helping people understand just how important this immediate chemistry is with other people. And the second one being the presentation checklist. In this, you know, we're talking about an age of appropriate, and you know, this take me as I am thing. I gotta tell you, the second one on here is the #1 write-in of an HR research with HR groups that I did. Cleavage, too much cleavage at the interviews was the #1 write-in, and I just was amazed. And the second one was people being late. I had no idea who's late for an interview. I didn't even know that was an issue. So again, I think all of these things give talking points when you're working with a client, and that's certainly why they make my hit list. The third thing I work with is, it's called the black folder, at least that's what I've named it, and it's kind of like an all-in-one and done. And that is, if they have this, they're ready to go. And again, it dovetails the templates that I provide, but they actually are able in the workbook to work through their application. Then they make a copy that they take with them. They have the resume, the references, the cover letter, and then again, I'm going to talk to you about a prep form that I've designed. But and then, gosh, really, do you have to tell people to have a pen? But yes, you do. And also to have cards, and I call them a networking card, but they're explained in the workbook, but it's just so valuable to my clients. The networking, and I work with 3 levels of networking. They kind of have a concept, but again, they're thinking it's Facebook. Well, how I look at it is a networking pitch, an interviewing skills pitch, and again, coming back to Facebook and or LinkedIn, most people aren't aware of the role that LinkedIn is playing, and it is vital, and it's learning to have those key search terms in there, and it is connecting. I mean, it's just helping people get started on that, I think, is a gift to so many. They do know that that Facebook, and I talk about it under branding, but I throw this up mainly to help them understand that people aren't necessarily looking for reasons to hire you, and I might say it 5 or 50 times so I'll get started, but they're looking for reasons not to hire you, and certainly they're finding that on Facebook. When I talked earlier about everything you need to know to win the job in 2 places, again, I like this concept of being able to teach people how to read a job ad, and with that, they very simply have to realize that the employer is telling you what they need, and the way I roll it out is that you can identify the job skills, what part of it you can do, you can identify an example of that, and then if you don't have that, you already know the training that's needed. So in 4 columns, and whether it's on a napkin at a coffee shop or back of an envelope sitting at the kitchen table with a kid, anyone can learn this strategy, and it's just so handy to help them look at what the employer is looking for and whether or not they have the skills to do the job. And I also like to drive a point home at this point that the only proof you have going into an interview that you can do that job is an example. So if they don't have those examples, or they don't have the examples qualified specifically to outcomes, they're not really showing an employer that they can do that job. So it's tying it all together. So in this interview prep piece, you know, we all think that we are doing a client or the student a favor by saying, okay, make sure you get your resume, we want it customized, we want to make sure you have that cover letter, you have all those appropriate materials, you need to be sure and research the employer, you need to be sure and go in there with a couple of questions, and we tell them all that, and they shake their heads, yep, got it, yep, and do they do it? No, they don't. So what I did was create what I call the interview prep form, and in this I have it written out to where for every employer they do that research, they know what those job requirements are, the priority job requirements, they know what their examples or their proof is going into that job, and I've even provided certain questions that they can choose from that they can use, and then they already know when to set a callback date, because certainly that last thing they're doing is thank you, using their name, and when do you expect a decision to be made. So I'm very excited about this forum, because probably another piece that's so important that they don't even think about is that they're getting that employer or that interviewer's name down. And I honestly believe if you don't use the employer's name, you're not bonding, and you're not going to be hired. So I also at this point often tell them to put two letters up there in the corner of that paper, and that is very simply SU, and that just is to remind them to shut up. Because again, the longer you talk, the more likely you are to take yourself out of the job. They need to answer the question, and sometimes if that's a two-part question, they have to realize it's a two-part question being asked, and that may be asked for that very reason, to qualify or disqualify them for the job. So again, the value of this form simply is we ask them to do all these things and they don't, but they have this with them to do the follow-up. The last thing that I really come back in and hit hard at this point, I hit it hard by introducing it, but I don't beat them over the head with it, and that is because here they are coming through a career program that they have in their minds, gosh, if I just finish this, there's a job waiting for me. Well, and all of a sudden you're coming in and saying, no, well, no, there's not. It's very competitive. You need to do these things to be prepared. And you need to realize what it's going to take to both gain and maintain. Well, how I look at it is I can introduce these concepts at this point, but it's not like I can stop and take them down an entire additional training program, because as you know, in career services, we're on the eating end, we're at the back end. They think we have some kind of magic wand that well, yeah, just go over to career services, they'll, you know, it's like we're a placement agency. We are not. You know, we are facilitators of what it's going to take to get a job. So in this case, what I'm doing is facilitating their understanding of what it's going to take to survive on that job. And at this point, it is for them to understand that they have to be positive about their outlook and realizing what the employer is looking for, and in that it is that they understand that it's their responsibility to be a good employee. And again, what I do is just introduce these things as a contract to themselves, a pledge to do their best. With the workbook, with the videos, with everything, some people are getting it over time. Again, what I like is the idea of getting it to, I work with high schools. Again, community colleges are my first love, because that's grassroots. That's kind of where I'm coming from, or where I came from. And working with Goodwill actually helped me create this. This is actually a card, a 2 by 3.5 inch size of a business card that every student gets, that everyone where the workbook gets this. And very simply, again, based on the trigger method of learning, they can look at this card, just keep it their billfold, and know that for any job, they need to know the 3 top skills that employer is looking for, the 2 best qualities, and that better be to show up, pass the drug test, be dependable. The skills need to be right at the top of that resume. Again, my strategy is that job objectives are out. The resume starts with a summary of skills. The next thing they need to know is that they have to be the voice, the look, and exactly what the employer expects to show up. And that handshake needs to be short, strong, and that name clear. The wind in their sails going into the interview are going to be their 5 best examples. Again, the employer wants to know how you can get the same results here as in a previous job with the least amount of training. That's who I'm going to hire. Networking is very simply is going to get you into the job and to your next job. The employer is looking at this, again, reminding them, can you do the job, will you do the job, and are you a fit? In the workbook, I explained the STAR method of interviewing for behavioral interviews, which, as you know, are so popular now. So it's the STAR method being situation or task, action you took, and the results you got. The bottom line of it all in this process is that they're going to decide whether or not you're a fit in less than 7 seconds and whether or not to hire you in less than 5 minutes. And it is their responsibility to understand why they're a good fit for the employer. So again, the last page of the workbook, and so there's nothing hidden about how they're being evaluated, and self-evaluated is that I have the checklist where they can follow up with your assessment as well, and learn to self-assess and talk to other people about this, but that checklist is what drives the performance outcomes. So really, you might look at this as it went from this ginormous Google-driven, all of these millions of options and advice on how to get a job, and I brought it down to this window of 5 seconds to 5 minutes, and it's got to be their best 5 seconds to 5 minutes, but it makes it certainly more manageable. And if these pieces are facilitated directly, they certainly can be more memorable, and there are action steps, and nothing is hidden, if you will. What I want to do for a minute here is certainly talk about some of the results that we've had with this. Pauline has presented with me. She had 2 populations. She's up in the Delta, again, very high poverty area. She runs CNA programs on 2 campuses, Paragould and Blytheville. One group got Job Lingo, the other group didn't, and what was amazing is that 100% of the people in the Paragould group had jobs. There were 13 had jobs at graduation, and on the Blytheville campus, none of them did. It was just amazing results with those 2 populations. Again, same program. Another program that I'm happy to talk about always is the Arkansas Career Training Institute, and this is in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and what's groovy is that to go to this school, you simply have to have some type of disability, and it's, not restricted age-wise. And there are 13 different technical programs that you can choose from. And again, it's residential, so they have them 24/7. But every Thursday now is Job Lingo Day, so people are showing up. That shirt is buttoned up and it's tucked in, and they're greeting their instructors with handshakes. They're introducing themselves. They're practicing interviewing and most of them are like 16-week programs. So it's very exciting. Dr. Dawn is just wonderful in facilitating the Job Lingo program there through all the instructors. So it's part of the culture of the school. And so, and at NWAC, I'm working with their executive director, again, for institutional effectiveness. And what I love about the community colleges is that they're so responsive to the employer needs. Again, Walmart home office is in my back yard here, and so is Tyson, J.B. Hunt. We've just got some huge employers that are all stepping up and helping us look at ways to make the schools more responsive to the employer needs. And certainly that's exciting for all of us because they see me and they see this as a program that, again, is feeding that talent pipeline because they need these people to be job ready. So I guess what I'm trying to point out is that you have career development, and I'm all about all the skills and the knowledge, but it takes that facilitator, and as career coaches, we are helping them mind the gap between what it takes to go from school to employment. And certainly Bill Simons, I loved it when he said, it's about, I think it was the Gallup poll, it was that you need mentors and you need internships. And certainly facilitating how to win those is where we want to coach them. So again, and just kind of recapping here, employers want plug and play. I need you to hit the ground running with the least amount of training, and of course I want you to figure out how to do it my way. And in a recap of the 7 techniques, it's exciting because they are not only getting employed, but they're keeping the jobs. And with these techniques, being manageable, memorable, and actionable, they are completing the programs with a great deal of confidence, and realizing that, hey, nobody picks mediocre. You've got to stand out, and that's what's exciting. I'll turn it back over to Christine and Rita. This is the website. There's more information at joblingo.com. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I didn't really send out any kind of flyer. I just want you to know that I'm out here, and certainly I'm an advocate for both the employers and for the students.
Jan, thank you so much. What a great presentation with lots of wonderful information. I was wondering if you could share with everyone where they can find the handbook. Is it on your JobLingo website?
What about the demo? Actually, Jan, I was going to ask, I see demo at the top of your screen. Is there a way that they can just see a glimpse? I know, you don't have the whole workbook there, but is there a way for them just to see a glimpse of anything?
It is, what it shows is the demo link at the top shows the home page that I showed, the landing page, if you will, for the links or the downloads for the templates. But I put that up there because of the 12 videos. It will show that the first video. It won't show the rest of them, but it shows the first one. And what I'll tell you about that is that what I found in the field and with working with people online is that the attention span is so minimal that, again, keeping them under 5 minutes, most of them are 3, and I'm hyping the why of it, why it's important, and then hoping the follow-up in the pieces with the facilitators in the field. When I go out and do the train the trainer, I'm really teaching them the mechanics. They've got to understand the mechanics of that coaching specifically.
Right. This is Rita. Just to all of our people that are participating in the webinar today, I just want to mention I have seen the inside of a lot of this program, and I've looked at the workbook, and I want to attest to the fact that I really appreciate Jan because she's handling the tough questions, the tough challenges that I think all of us have continually, and it's all there in black and white. I was blown away by the way that she helps them, not only in the way they present themselves, but how to answer difficult interview questions. Just, it's an amazing entire package to me that I really respect the work that she's done. But I think the keys that I'm taking away is that for our students, you can turn them loose on the internet and you can assign them to do, some of these templates or that type of thing, but it's the accountability piece and the support they get from us that makes the difference. And I know that's where I am and what I believe in, and Jan is offering just a tremendous amount of support for that whole process. So thank you, Jan, and thanks for sharing it with us today. It's
Rita,
really
glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if we have any questions, we'd love to see them. You can type them in that chat area there, and Christine will get those over to Jan. Or if you go to JobLingo, I know there's a contact area there that you can go specifically and talk to her a little bit more about your needs. So whatever works for you. We'll give them a second to see if there's any questions. Okay, and I don't know, Jan, if you had any last comment, just we'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you're exactly right. It comes back to the communication, and they don't have the language skills. So I like to think I'm providing not only the templates, but for fill in the blank, all the language pieces that they don't have, and it's all in there. It is all in there.
They don't think about answering in that particular way, and you've really taken it from the employer perspective and what they need to do to make an impression there. So yes. I see for next time, Christine, you're going to tell me, or you want me to?
Yes, no, I was going to say, I can't believe we're talking about 2016 already, but please join us for our next webinar on January 14th. It's LinkedIn for Career Service Professionals, and I'm sure we'll send out a reminder registration if you haven't done so already. And then give me a day, and then this Jan's incredible presentation will be available on the Career Briefs website at cacareerbriefs.com under the webinar section.
Okay, and let me mention, I will be doing the session on LinkedIn in January using Lindsay Pollock's resources. We've had Lindsay speak before, and I'll be using many of the things that she's doing and hopefully bringing in some examples from all of you about how you're using LinkedIn on your campuses. So we look forward to seeing you in January. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.